Hello! Today I'm going to be doing yet another book haul. This is my first time filming on my bed, and it was not a good idea because my weight is just throwing the books all over the place. They're now in no order, nothing. Oh my god. I haven't posted a video in like 2 months. Yikes, that's the longest I've ever gone. I have a good excuse. My laptop completely broken, wasn't working. Still not really working, still don't really know how I'm gonna upload this. But I'm gonna try because I really missed filming videos. I have in the past month filmed about 5 videos and none of them have made it onto the internet. About 4 of them have tried, but I was uploading them for like 5 days before I finally got so frustrated I deleted it. So we'll see how this goes. I am doing yet another book haul. I feel like I do these every other week. I don't mean to buy books. It just happens. I know book hauls aren't super original content, but I cannot get enough of book hauls, watching them. I can just watch them over and over and over again for some reason. So I hope you can too. I'm gonna call this the end of summer book haul because some of these books I got the end of June, so I had no idea what to call this. Okay, so I'm going to start with the books I did buy in June. And those are these 4 lovely paperbacks. My local library was having a book sale, and it went on for like 5 days, but I went the very last day, the very last half hour they were open, so there weren't a ton of options, but even still there were a ton of books. So next year I'm definitely going to go like the first day. And I can definitely say I probably would not have purchased 3 of these books if they weren't 50 cents. These books were 50 cents. So first I have The Secret Life of Bees by Sue Monk Kidd. If you haven't heard of this, I would be kind of surprised because even though it's not a very old book, I think it was published in 2002, it's kind of, in my mind, turning into a classic. Maybe I'm just crazy. I had to read it in school. I know a lot of people had to read it in school. I feel like this is a book that it's one of those things that everyone should read. So I did read this in 7th grade, but what had happened in that class, I'm always very good, obviously, with reading books for English. I really enjoy it. You know how they usually give you a set amount of chapters to read each night? I usually finish the book in a day or 2 because that's my usual reading time, and it's just I absorb it better. I have too much to read. I can't span this book out over like weeks, you know? However, this was a bit different. This did not go as planned. What had happened was my teacher was doing something new she had never done before, where she split the class up into little groups that she called book clubs, and each little book club was assigned a different book, and you had to determine everything. The amount of chapters you read each night over the span of a certain amount of time, all the questions and essay questions and packets, and it was a mess and stressful, and it made me not really like this book like I should have. Well, I remember while I was reading it, I thought this is really cool and written really well, and I'm sure I would like it, but I'm just so angry with the situation, and I didn't even end up finishing it. So, definitely want to read it again. If you don't know what this is about, I'm gonna go completely off of memory right now. Not a good idea. It follows a girl named Lily, and she is living in a house with an abusive father and a stand-in mother, live-in maid, that kind of thing. And she is constantly thinking about this fuzzy memory she has of her mother's death when she was a kid. Things go down, and her stand-in mother, what's her name? Rosaline, have to leave town and run away, and they find these new people and this new group, and it's really heartwarming and actually kind of heart-pounding as well, and I definitely want to read this soon again, and if you haven't read it, I definitely recommend it. Next I have The Pilot's Wife by Anita Shreve. Again, not really something I would have picked up, but there really were no options, and I really wanted to leave with more books. This was also published in my birth year. For some reason, I have no idea why, but whenever things are published or made or out the year I was born, I get very interested in them, and why? Is anyone else like that? So this follows a woman, and her husband is a pilot, so she's gotten very used to the idea, or she's had to kind of get used to the idea, coming home one day and him not being there and her being told the news he's died because he's a pilot, and that can happen. But when this happens and things unravel, there's a lot of rumors that her husband actually led a secret life, and she goes down this crazy road of trying to figure out the truth, and it sounds insane and it actually sounds really cool. So I hope I can read this soon, but I have such a big TBR pile, I have no idea. I just stopped buying books. Next I have One Day by David Nichols. This actually attracted me because I saw the title and thought, I think that's a movie, and turns out it is, with Anne Hathaway. who I love so much. I'm not a big contemporary person. Actually, in the past year and a half, I've like unwillingly started to wean out contemporaries altogether. I used to read them a lot more, but I've just recently not been into them at all. I've delved so far into the fantasy and historical fiction holes that are my two favorite genres. I don't know. This actually sounds very interesting though, in a way. It's a really interesting concept where these two people meet one day, but they can only spend one day together, and after that they just can't stop thinking about each other. So on this one day every year, we see a snapshot of their life throughout the years, and it sounds really interesting, a really cool concept. So there's that. And lastly, from this little book paperback, what? I've Lost and Found in Prague by Kelly Jones. Now I have to admit, I bought this because of Prague in the title. And I mean, it's a really pretty cover too. Ever since Laini Taylor's Dreams of Gods and Monsters series, I've been tad obsessed with Prague. A lot. I really, really like it, and I really want to go, and I saw this in the title, and immediately I had to have it. This follows a character during the fall of the Berlin Wall, right? She's a journalist. She, with hordes of other young people wanting to be a part of history, go to Eastern Europe to just see what's going on. She goes with her best friend, and then many, many years later, she travels back to not only rekindle some memories, but to visit her best friend who never left this part of the world. I can't explain things right now. She wants to go just to have a good time, but when she gets there, there is a murder in one of the biggest, most famous, something like that. One of Prague's most famous churches, and she gets wrapped up in it and investigates, you know, like main characters do. This actually does sound very interesting to me, and I hope I read it soon. I hope that, ooh, there's a bookmark in here. I hope there's a prologue or at least snapshots of her during the fall of the Berlin Wall, because I'm a historical fiction junkie and I would really, really like to see that. See ya. Next, I bought some books in July. So, in the beginning of July, the wonderful book, This Savage Song by Victoria Schwab came out. Victoria Schwab, in the past year and a half, 2 years, has quickly risen to be one of my favorite authors. So, I jumped at the chance to go to meet her with my best friend in New York. I have a whole vlog on it. I love vlogging that stuff. It's so fun, and I love looking back on it. So it's somewhere on my channel. Maybe I'll link it below if I'm feeling it. I don't know. If you want to watch it, it's actually one of my favorite vlogs. I think it's really funny. So obviously I bought This Savage Song and I read it, and it was amazing. And if you have yet to read Victoria Schwab, she's quickly rising to be quite a popular person in our little online bookish community, and I definitely recommend her. The first book I read by her was A Darker Shade of Magic, but if you're more of a YA person, I definitely recommend this. I did make a whole discussion review for this, and it was one of those videos that I posted, or tried to post, for like a week, and it wasn't working. It would not post, and I deleted it, and I'm just very sad about it. All I can think about right now is Shameless, because I'm watching Shameless, and I only turned Shameless off to film, and now all I can think about is Shameless. So the Victoria Schwab signing was held at the cutest little bookstore, Books of Wonder in New York, and I fell in love with it. They had tons of signed books for the same price as non-signed books. I jumped at that chance. So the first book I got was The Unexpected Everything by Morgan Matson. I love Morgan Matson so much. I actually don't know what this is about. This sounds so good. Oh my gosh. I read Since You've Been Gone last summer and I loved it, and this sounds like it's gonna bring the same emotions. I'm so excited. It follows a politician's daughter, and there's a big scandal. Stuff happens, but it sounds really cool, and it's signed, which is always a plus. I'm not doing a very good job of explaining books, but personally I like to go into books not really knowing a lot. I don't really read the summary sometimes, so I'm sorry if that shows. Also, while I was there, I bought The Winter's Curse by Marie Rutowski, I believe is the author. I'm pretty sure. My friend is currently borrowing it, but the selling point for that was that it was signed. So, It was a book I'd wanted to read for a while, and I did, and I enjoyed it a lot. I wish I had the other books to binge it. I feel like it'd be such a good series to just do a quick binge. But of course, Barnes & Noble doesn't have it. Never have what you're looking for. I'm sorry, Barnes & Noble. I hope you don't see this. I love you, but we're having some problems at the moment. I'm sure you've heard of this book as well. It's been going all over the YA circle recently. But it follows a main character in a world where women of her high society standard, placing, whatever, have to either go into the army or be married, and our main character wants to do neither. She wants to use her brain and put it to use, and she's such a strategist. I love and hate her, but I love the way she thinks, and I think it's so cool reading from her perspective. And she buys a slave, and as you could probably guess, her and the slave, I don't know, fall in love, start liking. It's a YA. What do you expect? I did really enjoy reading it. It actually reminded me a lot of The Selection by Kiera Cass. At least setting and character-wise, it did. I did like it quite a bit more than The Selection, and I liked her a bit more than I liked America. It gave me so many of the same vibes. It was like I was reading it all over again, which is not a bad thing. I think that's all I bought while I was there. I'm really trying to go in order, but it's hard. I have no idea what's going on. Next, I have I Darken by Kiersten White. I loved this book. I loved this book. I bought this thinking it was a fantasy. 100% thinking it was a fantasy. I got 50 pages into it before I said, there's no way this can be a fantasy. Where's the magic? I went 50 pages into this where there were real places that I knew, that I registered in my brain, that I said, those are real. I recognize those names. But it still has to be a fantasy. 50 pages before I finally said, I gotta see what's going on. So I finally went to that first, what's this page called? This information page. Am I just being really stupid? Found out it's historical fiction. And it's a great one. It reads exactly like a fantasy. It is the first historical fiction I read that is exactly like a fantasy. All it needs is some magic sprinkled in, and it would be. I loved it. Definitely a book if you're not a historical fiction person. This one. Definitely. The interesting thing about this is that she has her characters, but they're based off of real people from history, with their own stories twisted, and there's a gender swap with our main character, and I'm going to try to remember everyone's name. Our main character, Lada, who is based on Vlad the Imposter, Vlad the Destroyer, something like that. It's actually Vlad the Impaler. I don't know why I didn't just look in the back of the book where it says it. I'm an idiot. Okay, proceed. Basically, Lada is kind of a psychopath. She's kind of crazy. You have the moments when you love her, and then you have the moments when you're kind of scared of her. Well, her and her brother Radu, aka Radu the Handsome, from history. It was really interesting. I always read the end, the acknowledgements and things, and back there she talks all about how this is based on real people, and it kind of blew my mind. Her and her brother Radu are betrayed by their father. They're left in the Ottoman Empire, and if you know anything about the Ottoman Empire, they're kind of crazy. Her and Radu are left there by her father, and while they kind of grow up through the years, and Radu kind of starts to see this place as home, Lada is just planning her way to escape. And while they're there, they meet Mehmed. I'm pretty sure that's his name. I didn't really know how to pronounce it, but I kind of pronounced it Mehmed. And he is I think he's Mehmed the Conqueror. I'm pretty sure. And their story twists and turns, and it gets so complicated and dark and crazy, and it's so good. I always say I try not to rave about books, and then I rave about books, but I'm raving about this one. I loved it. So then, obviously, July 31st, you know what's coming. The Cursed Child! Yay! Oh, look at that. She's only halfway through. And she's using the book jacket as a bookmark. That's not good. I'm only halfway through this. I don't really know why. I have no idea why. Never read a screenplay before, but I don't really think it's that. Honestly, I kind of think that, and this is such a cowardly thing to say, but there have been so many mixed opinions on this, and as I'm getting further through it, I'm so afraid to not really like it, because I can kind of see how my mind could go down that path. I don't really like the main character at all, and the story's kind of slow, and I'm really afraid to not like a Harry Potter book, which is really a cowardly thing to say. But I mean, you hold these books to such a high standard and they mean so much to me. Now looking at them from a more critical aspect is kind of scary, so I am going to read it. I am going to criticize it. Next, I have Under Major Domo Minor by Patrick DeWitt. I bought this in an airport a few weeks ago. It was a completely 100% impulsive buy, probably the worst I've ever had. Where I was in the little shop by the book section, of course, and they started calling the last call for my plane to board. And I knew that all my books were completely packed down in my carry-on. There's no way I was going to get them. So I just saw that this had a Hudson Best Book of the Year award. I saw it had an interesting cover, and I just bought it like that. I bought it thinking it was contemporary. I mean, doesn't that kind of look like a contemporary? Ignore the castle. I didn't see the castle for some reason. Well, it's not a contemporary. I think it's a fantasy, maybe. I don't know. I don't know how to feel about it. This is such a weird book. I'm still halfway through it. It's an interesting read, a bit. It follows our main character, Lucy, and he is kind of just... I don't like him. He is the resident odd duck in his bucolic hamlet of Bury, a weakling and compulsive liar in a town famous for producing brutish giants. I think that's one of the main aspects of Lucy I don't like, is him being a compulsive liar. It isn't a very interesting main character to read about. I've never read about a character with that characteristic, but I don't really like him at all. I also just find that he's arrogant and weird, I don't know. Well, he moves to this new town, this new village, to become the under major domo, which you kind of find out what that job is, obviously, throughout the book. Honestly, one of the only reasons I'm still reading this book is because there is a big mystery in this castle he's working in as the under major domo that I really want to figure out. The author has done a really good job of really hyping up this mystery thing that's going on that I really want to figure out. The writing is also very different. I've never read a book written like this. We'll see how it goes. Next, I have Simon vs. the Homo Sapiens Agenda by Becky Albertalli. I'm sure you've heard of this as well. It's a very popular book and I've wanted to read it for a long time. It follows Simon, who is not out of the closet when one of his emails falls into the wrong hands. There is a very big chance that he could be outed, so he has to become the wingman for the class clown, and throughout all this, his pen pal is getting much more flirtatious, and there's a risk that he could be outed, a whole scandal, but it sounds like a really cool coming-of-age story, and I really wanted to read it for a long time. And next, I have More Happy Than Not by Adam Silvera. I met Adam during Victoria Schwab's signing. It was actually just completely out of nowhere. While waiting for my number to be called at the signing, I just walked past him, recognized him, and then me and my friend went up to meet him, and he was the nicest person in the whole world. He was so sweet and kind, and he seemed so genuinely happy to be speaking to us and for us to have recognized him, and we got pictures with him, and he's like my favorite person in the world now. I wanted to read this for a while anyway, but this just pushed me to do it, and I'm going to be an avid reader of his now. I'm very excited for his other books to come out. Definitely recommend at least looking Adam up, because he's such a nice, genuine person. And next, I have A Monster Calls by Patrick Ness. I read Patrick's trilogy, Chaos Walking, and I loved it, and I've wanted to read this for a long time. It's very highly acclaimed. Kind of regret buying this cover. Again, it was an impulsive buy in an airport. Why am I like this? I love the original cover, but this has an exclusive interview, essay, and bookmark. The bookmark's kind of crap, but either way. There is no summary about this, but it involves a boy and a monster who wants the truth. I've heard very great things, and I hope to read this very, very soon. And finally, last but not least, I have The Underground Railroad by Colson Whitehead, and I forgot to take the price sticker off the top. I said in a previous book haul that I recently found out about Costco's pretty cool book selection, so I went to Costco again and I got another book. They actually have a really cool book selection of books I haven't really heard of for really good prices. So this, as you may have guessed it, is about the Underground Railroad and two people who are trying to escape, and the Underground Railroad, I mean, it's what you expect, summary-wise. It was an Oprah's book club pick of the month, I guess, I don't know. But it's something I do want to educate myself more on, and again, historical fiction junkie, what can I say? I've seen this on my bedside table for the past few days, and I'm stopping myself from picking it up because I'm currently reading 3 books. I can't do this to myself. This is the start of a slump. I can see it. So, all my books. So many here. There's so many more than I thought there were. So, these are all the books I've bought over the past 3 months. Honestly, better than I usually would have done. Uh-oh. Okay. All over the place. Thank you so much for watching. Bye!